You're listening to Lights Camera Latino, the podcast, hosted by Angel Fabian Rivera. Remember to follow us on all social media platforms as Lights Camera Latino and Angel Fabian Rivera. Hola mi gente, welcome to Lights Camera Latino, the podcast. As always, I am Angel Fabian Rivera. I'll be your host, and today we have a very special episode because the Atlanta Film Festival is starting this weekend here in Atlanta, Georgia. It's going to run up until the 5th of May, and I'm excited to bring two amazing creators, and they're going to talk about their film, At Sea. At Sea is a film that their logline reads, a group of blind travelers navigate a commercial cruise ship with their guide dogs. Let me tell you, I watched the movie and I'm so excited to dive into it because it's so different. It's so beautiful, and the way they navigate and showcase things that people don't necessarily talk about. And I'm so excited to dive in here with director Serena Dykman. Serena Dykman. Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Happy to be here.
Yes, I'm excited. Serena Dykman is a New York-based filmmaker and culture clasher who uses storytelling to connect people through humor, heart, and humanity. Thank you for being here, Serena, with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, and we have our Latina audio description narrator, Nefertiti Matos Olivares, a bilingual Latina who made history as the first blind person to perform live audio description for the Oscars in 2023 and the Emmys in 2024. Wow, Nefertiti, that's amazing. Thank you for being here.
Hola, mi gente. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you both in here. We're gonna talk about the work that you guys do before we dive into the movie, and I wanna just go ahead and ask you, Serena, what inspired you to tell this story, and how did the idea At Sea come about? Like what like I wanna how did it happen?
It's actually a beautiful story that has led to 4 different film projects. I have a medical alert dog who is watching me as we speak. She's judging everything I say. And I was walking a couple years ago in South Williamsburg in the Hasidic neighborhood of New York, and noticed that the community seemed to be very apprehensive of my dog. And I'm Jewish, but it's something that I didn't know about the Orthodox community. And it led me to thinking, what if a dog had to live in this community? What kind of dog has to be anywhere? A guide dog. And so fast forward, I can't get this idea out of my head. And I think it needs to be a guide dog and a guide dog trainer who comes from another minority. Because as you said, it's what I really love to do is what I call culture clash, and put people from different worlds that quote unquote shouldn't belong, put them together in unusual circumstances and show that we actually have a lot more that connects us than things that should divide us. And so the research into guide dogs led me to connect to an incredible gentleman who Nefertiti knows really well, named Frank Sr., who is a blind jazz singer here in New York. And little piece of trivia, I actually met Frank and Nefertiti the same week. I met Nefertiti on a panel at Doc NYC. She was leading this incredible panel about accessible filmmaking. Keep in mind, I had never met a visually impaired individual before that week in my life. This is about 1.5 years ago. And so I talked to Frank, and him and I became really good friends. We're actually making a documentary together, and he told me, hey, Serena, I'm going on this cruise with a bunch of blind folks and their dogs. Do you want to come with us? And I was like, Frank, that sounds like a movie. So, we got the authorization from Carnival Cruise Line, etc., to be able to be on the ship. And in parallel, I was in pre-production for a film called Babka, which is about a Hasidic baker who loses his sight and needs to get a guide dog. And the guide dog trainer is a Puerto Rican queer Catholic man. And Nefertiti was consulting on that screenplay as I was, in parallel going on the cruise. And so that's kind of the long answer to how one project led to another, which led to another. And it's kind of this beautiful family of artists and creatives that have helped me through this journey and given me their insight into a world that I knew very little about.
So even before it was about to be a movie, it wasn't even a movie, right? It was just this idea of like, oh well, you're going in this cruise ship. Let me get my camera and let's record, right? Yes,
it's I knew I was making a documentary about Frank, who's again a jazz singer. And I'm a big jazz lover, so we've been working toward making this film together for about a year and a half. And the cruise aspect, I'm like, it's going to be an interesting part of the film to see him on the cruise. But it also sounded like something that might potentially be a standalone piece. And sometimes, I think especially in filmmaking and in indie filmmaking, if you overthink it, or in documentary filmmaking, you kind of, there's so many reasons not to do something. So we kind of went ahead and did it. And I'm so happy I did, because I came out with not only a movie that I personally like and people seem to like, but also with really beautiful friendships and a new admiration or a new insight into how to travel without sight, which I think makes me a richer traveler in a way.
Yeah. It makes you like appreciate things in a different way, and that's the beauty of it. And with that, I want to ask you, Serena, before I jump with Nefertiti, documentaries has always been your thing, or this is something that you started, in the last couple of years? Because you've been a filmmaker for a while, but how did that transition happen? How did you started doing just documentary? Because I see you're doing another one as well.
Yes, so it's I started out in fiction. I've always been a storyteller. I've always told stories one way or another, and I'm a screenwriter. So being able to really kind of imagine the worlds and put everything, from the screenplay to what you see on screen is something that I love, having that sense of control, right? Of being able to create a world kind of from scratch. But then I was finishing film school about 10 years ago at NYU. Life led me down a path of research about my grandmother, who was an activist and a survivor of the Holocaust, a camp survivor. And so that led me to make my first documentary film. And then I went back into narrative. And, now when people ask me, what do you want to do? Are you more one, more the other? I'm both. This, idea where I was just walking my real dog in a real neighborhood led to a fiction idea that led to 2 documentaries that led to one more. So I go where the story goes, and to be able to really follow the thread is, I think, the biggest treat of being a filmmaker. And sometimes real life is more interesting than fiction, and one inspires the other. So yeah, I've been doing both, and I very much plan on continuing to do both.
I love that. I love that you said, that you're going to continue doing both, because people are always want to put us in a box, like you either got to do one thing or the other. But why can't we do it all? Like it's just about like the creative. I always say the creative juices, right? Like where are they taking you? Where are they taking? Is it taking you to this? And like you said, like you had an idea that came up just by walking your dog. So it was like, wait, actually, let me talk about this. Let me research. Let me look up this story, and the story came to you. So sometimes we should not run from the story. The story is in there, so you should just do it. And that's what you're doing. That's amazing.
Absolutely. And it's really the people. It's the people that I met through research. I'm like, they're great character studies. They're amazing for research purposes to write fictional characters. but these people are also way too fascinating to not point the
Mm.
camera directly at them.
Yeah.
And are really have become dear friends, which might be the biggest treat out of them all, of this whole adventure.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I'm sure they're family now. Like that's
Yeah.
beautiful. So Nefertiti Matos Olivares, that name. Nefertiti, can you tell us where are you from? Where were you raised? Because you're definitely Latina, and I know that, and I see that.
And very proudly.
Yes.
I'm from New York City, first generation born Dominican. Mis padres son de República Dominicana. I still
Eso.
very much have it in my blood, yes. And yeah, what can I say? I have been blind since age 3. A lot of life has happened to me, but
Mm.
I'm still here, and my goodness, has it turned out wildly better than I ever thought it would. And part of that is Serena's friendship. She is lovely,
Oh,
as you just heard. So, yeah,
I
and
love
this,
That's
that.
sweet.
yeah, it's true. She throws
Muchas
great
Yeah.
gracias, mi
parties.
amor.
Oh, there it is. So
Muy
I love that
bien.
Nefertiti because you said that, and hey, like you've made history. You made history by being the first blind person to live narrate the Oscars, and that must have been like an amazing experience. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came about?
Yeah, so that was through my job at Descriptive Video Works, where I'm workflow manager for quality and inclusion. There, I'm responsible for a number of things. One of them, though, is narration, much like what I've done for At Sea, only that for the Oscars, specifically the Emmys, various other live events. I'm doing that narration live, just like we're speaking now. Sometimes there's a little time to prepare ahead of time. Um, Mostly, though, live audio description is done cold. And
Mm.
as a blind person, it boggles people's minds. How can someone who can't see describe such a visual medium like film or TV or something that's going live? There's a whole bunch of me out here talking about it. So if anybody wants to, you know, check that out, that's fantastic. But yeah, I'll just say I'm not sure how familiar you are, Angel, or your listeners are with audio description, but basically it's the way blind and low vision people and other folks too who can't necessarily have their eyes on the screen for whatever reason, enjoy film, TV shows, even live shows, live programming, live performance, like on Broadway and such. It requires basically somebody who writes a script, preferably a blind person doing the quality control of that script, much like I did for At Sea, much to my privilege. A narrator, which is something also that I do, and somebody who mixes it and engineers it, audio edits it in the case of film. And it's basically a dialogue that runs in between naturally occurring pauses in the film or the content's dialogue that basically describes essential elements of what's going on, from facial expressions to scenery, costumes, all sorts of things. All basically just about all streaming services have audio description. If anybody's interested, it's in your sound settings. Check it out. There's also all sorts of examples online, and it is a beautiful art form. And beyond that, for people like me who are disability advocates, it's a human right. It's access to visual information. So when somebody like Serena comes along, who is so good at noting patterns and picking up on them and creating beautiful stories out of them, and implements the accessibility from the start, not as an
Yeah.
afterthought, not as a
Yeah.
checkbox to just do the quote unquote legal thing. It results in something like At Sea, where it is so immersive as to be meta, right? Like, I'm usually
Mm.
behind the mic, right? You hear my voice, and that's awesome, but I'm actually in this film and I'm narrating
Yeah.
it as I'm watching it with the
Yes, you
folks. And
are.
oh my gosh, Am I saying too much? I don't want to be a
No,
spoiler
no, no,
alert.
no, no. You're doing no. I mean, it's just because I watched a movie, and it's so beautiful to see you and hear you, and the excitement that you evoke. And I was happy. Like the first time I heard you, you brought me a smile, and that was so natural
Mm.
because the way that you talk, the way that you tell the story, right? Because you're telling the story as we also watch it, and the people can watch it, can hear it. It's just amazing, and the way that you do it, like you brought me a smile, and I wanted to ask you, like, what was it like narrating a story that really reflects your own experiences as well?
I mean, this was an amazing experience on so many levels, right? From the way, very serendipitously, that Serena and I met, where she showed up to this panel that she wasn't even, if I remember correctly, Serena, you weren't even really like there for
No,
that panel, and you decided to
no.
stay,
Yeah.
and I was
Absolutely.
moderating it, and then we go out, and she finds me, just happens to walk into the same bagel place where I was sitting,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
she came up and said hello, and it just launched this whole developing of not just friendship, which came as a result of us working together and liking each other, but she like respected my insight, and I love how she was crafting these stories, and we developed this very much like back and forth thing between us because she cares. It's not just about
Hmm.
the folks, right, in the documentary. They are amazing enough. They are the real heroes, if you will, here, the dogs especially. Sorry, humans. But it's also the care with which Serena, again, built in that accessibility, thought about it from the get-go. I think of it as like she made the cake. The cake is the film, but hey, the audio description, the captions, all that access stuff that opens up this world to all sorts of communities, not just your average or what you think of as your average film watcher or what have you. That's like the sugar in the cake. It shouldn't come after the
Yes.
fact. It won't taste as good if you put it in after. It tastes great when you put it in from the start, right?
That's all
I
because
love
of
that.
you,
Yes.
and I mean on every single level, but also because at that panel, I remember you saying it's usually an afterthought, if a thought at all.
Mhm.
Um, and
That's
I
correct.
didn't even know what audio description was. You know what I
A lot
mean?
of
It's
people
just,
don't.
Yeah.
and a lot of people don't. And now I'm speaking on panels myself, and I'm touring the country with different films at film festivals, and it's really interesting to see, especially on the independent scene, because now closed captioning in film festivals are mandatory. Audio description, I see it more and more as an option,
Yes.
but it's very rare that it's done because we're kind of broke filmmakers, and it's already just so hard to get something out there. But the result is that we actually get a lot less people that can watch our film. And so
Mm.
when you even think about it as a like commercial standpoint, it makes sense because you're opening up your content to such a broader audience. And
Yeah.
that really has been
Absolutely.
something that I try to kind of insist on. And also as a filmmaker, like we're always taught show don't tell, and in this
Mm.
case it's kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
But once you marry those two ideas of show don't tell but also describe, it makes your filmmaking process as a creator so fascinating. Like we were editing at sea with my editor Chris Nyang with our eyes closed, and then we're like, we really need to call Nefertiti because we need her insight, and she needs to tell us what is understandable and what isn't, etc. But it means that
Yeah.
we emphasize the sound design, which we
Yeah.
might not have done if we didn't have this in mind. When a dog licks a cup, we see it, we think it's cute, we think it's funny.
Yeah.
We worked with Gigantic Studio. We asked them to really emphasize that lick sound. And I was just at a screening a couple days ago with 200 people in the audience. That lick gets a laugh every single time. And so that makes my film better.
Yeah.
Why? Because I had a more global audience in mind. So it works on so many levels, even that are kind of unexpected, that I encourage every filmmaker to think about a movie to be experienced non-visually, in addition to the way we're used to experience it as sighted filmmakers. It's really an incredible journey.
Yes, please remember,
That's
blind people
great.
are out here and we watch content. Just because we may not be able to see it with our eyes doesn't mean we can't hear it or feel it or want to be part of just the conversation. We are of this world, whether we can see it with our eyes or not. There are other ways of experiencing. And to what Serena was getting at, which is meaningful access, right? Opening up your world to more worlds. That's meaningful access, right? When you do it right, when you consult
Yeah.
with the people. This is another point, to Serena and other very treasured filmmakers. They build from the get-go the access assets, if you will, like audio description, like captioning, and it's what, oh, I get so overwhelmed because it's such a beautiful thing, but still so rare to have somebody understand that a film about people with disabilities, if you don't provide it so that we too can enjoy it, then that's exploitation. You know, you're filming about us, but you're not doing it with us, right? There's this whole thing in disability, nothing about us without us. Well, Serena made it not just about us, but went all in with us behind the scenes and everything to bring that access, to make absolutely sure that we as a community of blind people could enjoy it. And that in turn, like with, curve cuts that allow wheelchairs to go up curbs, but also allows a carriage or somebody with a suitcase to have an easier time with those curves, right? Her example of the licking sound, check that out. It wasn't just blind people laughing in the audience, it was
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
No, and
Beautifully said.
that's what true accessibility means, right? Like you said it
Yes.
there. Like why talk about something when you're not even letting the people that you're talking about come enjoy this project, this particular project, and that's the way it should
Yes.
be. And with that, I wanted to ask you, Nefertiti, how far do you think we've come in representation for blind and visually impaired communities? What do you think is still in need for us, like for everybody outside of that community to help or to open the door to let you and your communities, right, like be part of it in representation?
That is a great question. Thank you. Wow. That's the first part. Ask. Just even think about us. Open your mind to the fact that blind people, low vision people exist. We are out here and we are just as interested and just as deserving as anyone else to enjoy your content. You pour so much of yourself into it, whether you're a director, a writer, whatever you happen to be in the process. Why not? Why not? What's the harm? There is no harm, quite the opposite. There's only more exposure. There's only learning for you. There's only enrichment for other people, including yourself in the process. Yes, you'll have to learn some new ways of doing things necessarily. And as a director, Serena could speak better to this than I, but it's going to make everything better. And it's going to include a whole swath of people who are out here and frankly, who are starving for more access to things.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a desert still compared to what sighted people have access to. Blind and low vision people don't have as much access, and there's really no need for it. And there's ways, to your point, Serena, earlier talking about how independent filmmakers are broke. Yes, lots of what y'all do is a labor of love, but man, talk about loving your content so that more people, so that more may access. I think that's hugely important and significant, and only stands to make you and your art better.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And to the indie filmmakers out there that wonder how it's done, it's absolutely doable, both financially and time-wise. It'll also, if you get someone who can do quality consultant like Nefertiti when you're on a scripted project at the beginning, it's gonna make your script better, because you realize that you forgot to write something that you knew was in there, because you're also the director, because you see it, but actually isn't clear to someone who's reading it on the page. So
Or
it
something you
again,
think is clear, but doesn't actually ultimately mean much to the blind person, because you're
yeah,
not blind.
exactly.
So,
But even
yeah,
sometimes to the sighted, like that's the
yeah.
thing. It just, I remember Nefertiti's first comments on one of the early drafts of Babka, and a lot of it was obviously geared toward audio description and accurate representation of a visually impaired protagonist. But a few comments, I was like, oh wait, this is like a script note I really need to take into consideration, because I think about it visually, and hence it might not translate in a certain way. So it just makes it, we recreate as filmmakers real life, or we recreate life, and in life there's so many different elements, and it's very hard to keep track and keep check of all of that as one human being who's reading a script over and over and over again. So get people who have literal different points of views.
Delegate to people who have lived experience.
Exactly.
And not for nothing, but this stuff, if I haven't made the point yet, let me make it again. It will only elevate your art. I promise you. It will elevate it. It won't detract from it. It's not some box to check off and forget about it. No, there's real difference you can make here, real impact, and a broader exposure to your art that deserves it.
I love that. Yeah, that's the right way, and everybody needs to listen to this, and everybody needs to apply this, because we need more accessibility in everything that we do, in art, non-art, in everything that we do every day, and it's gonna elevate, like you say, it's gonna elevate the experience. It's gonna take it to another level. It's gonna open the audiences as well, and it will help.
And remember something: 1 in 4 people is disabled in some way. If you're not today, that's temporary, y'all. It may affect you sometime, and you will absolutely deserve to have access like anyone else too, right? So why not be part of that? Be part of the solution. Whether it touches you today or not, it is something that may touch you or someone we're out here. Disability is all over. It's part of the human experience. And it doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be prohibitive. Quite the opposite. It could be a broadening, and like I already said, an elevation.
Yes, thank you for that, Nefertiti. Thank you for the work that you do for your community as well. And I want everyone to learn more about that. And everyone to, like, if you don't know about this, you have spaces where you can learn more. There's no excuses anymore. That's it.
Gracias, Angel. Yes.
Yeah, that's what we gotta do. Yes. And okay, so before we finish, I want to ask you both, okay, what do you hope audiences take away from At Sea?
Get a dog.
Do you want to get a dog? Yeah, dogs are awesome.
Dogs make everything better.
They really do. Okay, there's a few things. One, it's a feel-good doc, which, having been in several in-person screenings in the past few weeks, it just warms my heart to see that a story is making people laugh and smile and feel like they're on vacation, whilst also teaching and educating. That's kind of my goal for everything, and so seeing it at work is wonderful. Something else, and Nefertiti, tell me if you agree with that, is to ask. Like, in a lot of the subjects, the visually impaired individuals in the film, is something that was very recurring in what they were telling us, is how there's such a barrier between the sighted and visually impaired community, because people in the sighted world might be afraid to just ask the questions. I can say from my personal experience, I have been incredibly welcomed with arms open, and people have answered my questions, as stupid as they might have been or as ignorant. So I'm incredibly grateful for that. But I think, people tend to be afraid of things that they don't know. And so we have to all play our part in opening opening those doors. And then the last thing I'll say is, if you see a guide dog, do not pet it. Please do not distract it. Do not pet it. And even if you see just a regular dog, never pet a dog without asking its handler if it's okay. But especially in the blind community, it can genuinely become a real problem. And even though those dogs are incredibly cute, do not pet them.
No, certainly not while they're working, wearing their harness, and even when they're not. Yeah. Don't go around petting people's dogs without asking. How about that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, in general.
It's just as simple as that. Yeah.
But I would say I want people, I want to underscore what you said, Serena, about we being a very welcoming bunch of folks. I'm not every blind person, but I think I can speak with authority that most of us want people who want to know more about us. We want to dismantle all these misconceptions about us. We want to do away with so much of the ignorance. Personally, I don't think there's an ignorant question. If you're asking it and you're not being cheeky or an a-hole, quite frankly, there is no ignorance. You genuinely don't know. I'd rather you ask me than go out there thinking that you do, and odds are that you don't. Right?
Yeah.
Like give yourself and people like me the respect to ask. It's okay. Also, not every blind person is the same blind person. You might catch me on a day where I'm not feeling very nice, and so I may not treat you very nicely. Or if you approach me in a way, that is going to reflect like anyone else. That doesn't mean that Frank over there won't be like, hey, let's go, have a drink at the jazz club or something. Like we are.
I was with him at the jazz club last night.
I know, me too. He is good times, Frank. You'll meet him in the film. But yeah, just please take away from this film that we are human beings. We all have personalities. We all have quirks. We all have great things and not so great things, like anyone else. We don't see with our eyes, okay? And we can so much else, including broaden your horizon, teach you something new, take away a fear that you might have. You're right, Serena. A lot of people, all of us, fear things that we don't understand. Blindness is one of the most basic things, honestly, because we live in such an ocular-centric world, right? I think they say that 70-80% of the human experience is experienced through sight. So I can understand the real barriers that people might have towards getting even close to that. And still, here I am. Hey, I'm a blind person. Hola, aquí estoy. I'm normal. I'm good. I'm here. And you are too. And I think, that's what this film tries to do. In addition to make you laugh, but also make you feel, make you learn about the real experiences that we have, both in common with sighted people and uncommon with sighted people, but usually because of sighted people. And I think it is a magnificent representation, especially in a short form. I think it's been done brilliantly. And also, you'll be making history because you'll be watching the first ever documentary to have open audio description like this built in to the content itself. Like, it goes hand in hand with the story of the film. I'm narrating like visual cues, of course, but I'm also narrating, sort of telling you the story, literally holding your hand through it. And that was by design, Serena, right? You wove that all in very purposefully.
Absolutely. And it's really a film. Nefertiti, at the end of the movie, spoiler, invites the audience to watch it a second time non-visually. So it's really a film that's meant to be watched twice, once with your eyes open and once with your eyes closed, and understand how you would experience it differently with your eyes closed, just like the group of travelers we feature experience traveling through the Caribbean without their sight, but through a lot of other senses.
Yeah,
it's
a beautiful invitation. Although it's a, I just want to be cautious that is not blindness necessarily, but for a moment, it's a way to enjoy something and experience something in a way that you otherwise probably never have. And that's a
Yeah,
huge invitation.
yeah, put yourself in other people's shoes in your experience, right? Like it's like
Yes.
that is so beautiful, and you guys couldn't have said it better. Thank you for the invitation for the audiences to really understand that it's okay, right? That it's not we that you are normal, you're a real person. I
Yes.
love that you said there are some days that I may be like this, or some days that may be like that, just like anybody in the world. You know, we're all like that, and you're just
Yeah,
humans. And I want
that's right.
everyone to really understand that part of it. And that
Yeah.
is beautiful. Thank you both for really talking about and sharing your story and talking about at sea. And I'm hoping everybody who gets to go to the festival gets to see it. So can you tell us when is it going to be screening at the festival? And also, you guys will be talking as well as at a panel. So can you tell us when
Sure.
and where?
So the screening is on the 27th, which is a Sunday, next Sunday, at 3 p.m. At the Atlanta Film Festival. And then I'm actually coming back, so I'll be there for a Q&A. And I'm actually coming back just to be on a panel with AJ Murray and a lot of other wonderful people. And that is on the 2nd, Friday the 2nd at 11:30. The panel is called Beyond the Screen, Centering Accessibility and Storytelling. So it's, you know, they really go hand in hand. It's part of the creative conference at the Atlanta Film Festival. So please come check it out. And I'll be there. I can't wait to discover Atlanta. It's my first time.
Yay! And
Yes,
way to go,
welcome to
Atlanta.
Atlanta.
Way to do it. ATL.
Yes.
All right.
ATL, that's it. So for the audiences who cannot experience being at the Atlanta Film Festival, how can they experience the movie? I know the movie is going through festivals right now, but how can they follow along with what's happening with the film? Do you have social media?
Yes, the easiest way is through my Instagram, which is Serena Dykman, SERENA DYKMAN. And we also have on our website, we have a newsletter you can sign up for. There's not going to be any spam. Don't worry, it's like one email a month, if even, and it just keeps you up to date with our screening, our press, etc. for all the films that we have on the circuit. And then whenever it'll be available, a few festivals, are doing online festivals right after. So for a week, you can access it. This is something I personally don't have control on, but if they do it, I always opt in because the more people experience the film, the better. So serenadykman.com, you can sign up for the newsletter, Instagram, all the usual suspects. We're out there and trying also to make the website and our social media as accessible as Instagram will let us.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. Nefertiti, do you have any, how can people reach out to you? Do you have any social media? How can people come up to you and, and see what you're doing?
Social media. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I am, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's honestly the easiest way. That's sort of my dynamic resume, ongoing projects, which there are a ton. And just to even get in touch, to get more education, or to talk about description and how, your film, your project can have it implemented and the like. I would love to hear from folks. You can find me on LinkedIn. Again, that's my home base professionally. And I'm Nefertiti Matos Olivares, NEFERTITI MATOS OLIV like Victor ARES. And I hope I hear from folks, because this is good stuff happening out here. And accessibility needs to happen, especially if you do Spanish content. Por favor, pónganse en contacto conmigo, lo necesitamos.
Eso es, así mismo es. Wonderful. You're just amazing, Nefertiti. Every time I hear you, I just get transported to another world. It's like, the way you talk and the way you express yourself. It's so beautiful, and I'm excited to hear more content from you and see how audio description evolves and keeps every film gets to have it, and you get to transport us into different worlds because it's
I would love
definitely
to.
beautiful.
There's a hashtag.
Uh,
Hashtag describe everything. If I could, I would.
there it is. Describe everything. I love that. I love that. Thank you,
Yeah.
Nefertiti, for this. Thank you, Serena, for really
Thank
bringing
you,
this to
Angel.
audiences all around, and for everyone to understand more about this community that is so important, and the accessibility that you bring into the table. It's beautiful. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for opening the spaces. And I'm sure everybody who gets to experience at sea will leave the room different, and that's how I felt. That's how
I
when
think
I finished the
so.
movie,
No,
I finished different.
thank you.
So thank you for giving us that gift, both of you. And I want everyone to that goes to the festival to say hello to you and talk with you, and
And I'll be
chat
there with
more.
my dog, so
There it
Yay!
get
is.
bonus
Love
points.
that.
Oh, her
Please bring the
dog.
dog.
Her dog is lovely.
Yes. Thank you for
Yeah, my
that.
dog fell in
Gracias,
love with
Angel.
Nefertiti. Muchas
Yes.
gracias, hasta luego.
Gracias. Gracias a todos. Thank you for
Bye.
listening to Lights Camera Latino, the podcast. Remember to come to the Atlanta Film Festival happening this weekend, and I'll see you around. Bye bye.